Republicans are sympathizing more with Palestinians now than Israelis. This is a huge blow to the pro-Israel crowd. The big data poll from November 20th to the 21st found overall American sympathies split, with 29% favoring Israel, 21% Palestine, and nearly 30% choosing neither. So it's not as if it's just one side or the other. There's a huge chunk that also just don't support either side. Here's the thing. Republicans overall back Israel stronger at 47% to 12%. But when you look at it between the age divide, it's something completely different. But those aged 18 to 29 lean slightly toward Palestinian at 33% to 28%, with the gap widening among the America First Republicans, aged 25 to 29, to 41% for Palestine. So huge difference there between those that consider themselves Republican and those that consider themselves America First Republican or America First Conservative. So that's pretty interesting as well. The poll director described this as a historic low for Israel's support, linked to Gaza events and younger voters' news sources like social media. A plurality across groups viewed Israel's Gaza actions as genocide, even among young Republicans. So that's really interesting. And many expressed frustration that foreign issues overshadow domestic priorities, and that's really one of the main things there. So again, here's just one of the polls. Do you sympathize more with Israel or Palestine? Republicans 18 to 29, and you'll see Palestine 33%, Israel 28%. And then again, when you look at it by America First Republican versus regular Republican, which I find also super interesting. And let me pull this tab up there so you could see that. You'll see that America First Republicans, let me stretch that out, 25 to 29 there, have 44% of their sympathies towards the Palestinians, or I guess 41% there, in comparison to 24% for the Israelis. What that also tells me, actually, is that there is a very interesting difference now being shown between who considers themselves America First and who consider themselves a traditional Republican. To me, I think about that a bit more like the MAGA crowd versus the AF crowd, or the Nick Fuentes crowd is another way to put it. And you're beginning to see this divide growing stronger and stronger. So the Republican Party is going to have to reconcile that very soon. You're starting to see right now that the traditional Republican Party is trying hard to ignore that, especially among the older generation. We have individuals that, like Mark Levin, who are just trying to shut it out, Ben Shapiro, who just want to try to ignore it and condemn it even, without recognizing that it's actually starting to make a huge percentage of their voting base. So again, pretty interesting there. The Republican Party is identifying more and more with America First, a trend also driven by younger voters who consume news in different ways, and they do not support what they have seen in Gaza. Again, I already showed you the stats there. This month, 50.6% of voters still said the Trump administration is too focused on foreign affairs and not enough on domestic issues, down only slightly from 51.9% in late October. What's also interesting about this is who is the last person that Trump criticized and honestly just yelled at in the media for stating he's focusing too much on foreign affairs and less on domestic issues. It was Marjorie Taylor Greene. You might remember this was about a month ago. Marjorie Taylor Greene actually made a post on X. It was a pretty lengthy post, and she talked about how things are just too expensive here in America. People can't afford things. We need to be focusing less on Ukraine, less on Israel, and more on what's happening here at home base. And Donald Trump, the next day, when asked in an interview what he thought about Marjorie Taylor Greene's posts, he mocked it. He said that it's ridiculous. If she only knew what he has to go through as president and what the president's dealing with, then she wouldn't be saying what she's saying, and she surprised him. That's coming from Donald Trump. This was about a month ago, so I'll have to look up that interview to share with you guys at some point here soon. People in the comments are saying, let me expand my screen so you guys can see a little bit more of this. I'm finding optimism for the future with young America First crowd. After the next year, 6 years of darkness until we find the light. Trump is not the answer, unfortunately. The reality is this: the GOP representatives in DC do not represent current Republican voters. They represent a small older faction, and the divide the party is between the base and the elected officials. The base hates the representatives, and the representatives hate the base. They wanted Trump to our side, but it looks like he took their side, hence the plummeting poll numbers. So that's an interesting thought there. It's a shame they don't act like it though. They are going to be on the FO portion of fuck around and f around and find out to come November 26th, and they will not have they won't have anybody to blame but themselves. Again, I've been seeing this photo a lot, this meme, I guess. I don't know if you guys have, of just somebody dumping okay, this one's a little bit different. It's something America First and MAGA, and it's wearing an America Only hat. I'm seeing people say America First, America Only in one sentence, and I guess this really begins to show, honestly, the isolationist mentality that the younger generation is beginning to take in. And this is what I will say is I personally, I think anti-interventionist nationalists are awesome. And I think that the neocon warhawk mentality that has driven the United States since the CIA's inception has clearly come to its end, at least when it comes to support for that cause, for that political ideology, for that foreign policy agenda is a better way to put it. It's come to an end, and a large part of that is, again, because of social media, because people are beginning to notice what it does when we implement that sort of foreign policy agenda. The next video I'm going to be doing here in a little bit is going to be on Venezuela and how the CIA actually led to Cartel de las Solos or Solas in Venezuela, the Cartel of the Suns that Trump designated a foreign terrorist group. We created that. The CIA created that. The CIA allowed those networks to be established, and I'm going to explain that in the next video. Now, what's pertinent when it comes to foreign policy affecting domestic policy here in the United States is that you might have noticed, or you might have heard about what's going on in Colorado. They're having huge fluxes of Venezuelan migrants come in. Now, these Venezuelan migrants came in during Biden's administration primarily. However, what Trump won't tell you is that Trump's sanctions during his first term on Venezuela are what led to an economic collapse in Venezuela, crazy high inflation, and it led to an exodus of about 8 million Venezuelans. A lot of them went around the surrounding countries in South America, and some tried to come into the United States, but during Trump's first term, he had the borders really tightened up, so they didn't. And then Biden's term, the border restrictions were a lot looser. So all the Venezuelan migrants that were caused by the refugee crisis Trump's sanctions created were then able to enter the United States during Biden's term, and a lot of them went to Colorado. And now Trump got elected on the fact that he's going to help get rid and deal with the Tren de Aragua gang in Colorado. And he mentioned the Venezuelan migrants a lot on his campaign trail, but it's his foreign policy agenda that led to that. And then it's Biden's foreign policy, or Biden's domestic policy, I guess, on the borders that allowed them to come in. So they were really working together. This is why I say I'm really not on the left or the right. I'm really independent. I'm really not with Democrats or Republicans. I'm really independent versus the left or the right. I think that's a better way to put it, because they really kind of just work together. It's like one of them is bombing the hell out of places. The other one is allowing that mayhem to come to the United States after they cause the problems for those other people's countries. It's literally working in tandem, guys. So anyways, that's really everything I wanted to say for this video. If you found this video interesting, again, please go ahead and click the subscribe button below and give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel grow. Otherwise, I will see you guys here in a bit in the next video. Take care. Bye.